on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota, Gulf Coast Business Supply, and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome to Coast Vue, the show that celebrates every single morning the people who are working so hard here in coastal Mississippi to make this such a great place to live, work, and play. Unfortunately, we're having to talk more about the COVID situation, the Delta variant situation more specifically. The Mississippi State Health Department continues to roll out numbers that are alarming, and I think more evidence that the Delta variant is having a pretty significant impact on the unvaccinated, and we're going to talk more about that here in just a second. The State Health Department officer, Dr. Thomas Dobbs, said in a tweet, "This is very sad. It didn't have to happen this way. Fourth wave is here." That's the way he describes it now. And, you know, if you think about the exponential numbers, which we'll come to in just a second, there's plenty of evidence that we've got another challenge on our hands. And today, I think it's a wonderful time to have a timely visit from my friend, Dr. Nicholis Conger, who is an infectious disease doctor at Memorial and a really, really good friend of the show. Nick, how you doing, man?
I'm good. I'm real good. How about yourself?
I'm doing really well. So look, I've got a terrific newsletter that I sign up for. It's called Tangled, and the editor's name is Isaac Saul. What he tries to do is sort through a lot of the political stuff, let you know both sides of the argument. And within each side, there's multiple arguments. So it's a complicated thing today as it relates to COVID-19. I want to walk you through some of his observations here in just a second. But first, let me just sort of get the latest from you. Where are you sitting? What's your latest concerns? Sort of what's the book on your current situation?
Well, so, this Delta variant has kind of entered our region, and it's more contagious and it's more severe. And, what it's done is, so if you think about what vaccination has done, so vaccination essentially creates dead-end hosts. And so, yes, vaccination is not 100% effective, but by and far, it's quite effective. And so if you take all the people who've already had COVID and all the people who are vaccinated and you lump them together, those are people who wouldn't potentially be able to spread the virus. And so let's say 50% of our population is still able to catch the infection. Well, if we have a more contagious strain out there, then it has more of a likelihood of catching those people who aren't vaccinated. And that's what we're seeing. Certainly we have seen people who are vaccinated come in with very mild COVID-like symptoms, but again, the vaccine also decreases the severity. So by and large, 85, I'd say, to about 95% of the people coming in for infusions and coming into the hospital, and especially in the ICU, are unvaccinated.
Well, I think what you and I had previously discussed this, that before the Delta variant came to fruition, if you had been vaccinated or had COVID, there was a pretty good amount of people that had some form of protection. But in the case of the Delta variant, natural immunity, meaning that if you've had COVID before, but not the Delta variant, you're not protected from the Delta variant. Is that a big game changer in sort of where we are?
I don't think it's quite true to say you're not protected. I think that you would have some level of protection if your body has made an immune response to a COVID infection. Even non-COVID-19 strains, we see much less severe infections. And so I do want to keep that message out that, vaccination and prior infection are going to be helpful. Now, we do see exceptions. We do have, in particular, one patient with a very high antibody to the vaccine who looks pretty sick, and so those cases do scare me, and we might see more of that. So there's a greater chance that you might still get COVID despite being vaccinated or having had it previously. But by and large, still, there's every reason to go get vaccinated, even though this variant is the more dominant one right now.
So when you look at the patients that you're seeing, so kind of give me a sense of what the caseload looks like, and you do see a firm differentiation between vaccinated and unvaccinated, correct?
So let me paint you a picture in the outpatient setting. So when patients catch COVID and they want to get treatment right away, within 10 days, we try to give them the monoclonal antibody. So Ricky, a few months ago, we were doing like 50 of these a week, and then we got down to like 5 a week because people just weren't catching the COVID. We were at a lull. And now this week we're back up to trying to do 50 plus again. And, one day there's quite a few people in there who were already vaccinated. And I walked through, it just happened to be a day where about a third of the people were already vaccinated, about 2/3 weren't. But I tell you what, if you weren't a medical professional and you walked through and you talked to the patients like I did, you would be able to handpick which ones were vaccinated and which ones weren't. The vaccinated people had stories like, well, I had a little bit of a sniffle, and I didn't feel that great, so I decided to get tested just out of safety. And so they looked pretty well, almost well enough to where they really didn't even need the infusion. Whereas the unvaccinated people were gasping for air. You could tell that they were sweaty. They didn't look good. They were sick. They were definitely feeling bad. So they're definitely, even if you quote unquote catch COVID and you're vaccinated, if you have a really mild illness, to me, that's still a vaccine success. Now you look on the inpatient side, we had 6 or 7 people in the ICU really sick with COVID. Some of them are in their 20s and they're young and they're thin. They're not, usually it's the obesity and the elderly that really get sick and die. And so, these young people might still make it. I'm not saying that they're going to die, but certainly the severity with this Delta variant is noticeable. And the hospital is basically full of unvaccinated people. With a few exceptions, I do want to talk about later. I don't want to be too long-winded here, but there are a group of people who are vaccinated that might want to double check their vaccine status.
Yeah. And what do you mean by that? Say that again.
So we have noticed that some patients who have organ transplants, particularly kidney transplants, Dr. Lanier is one of the great nephrologists here on the coast, and he started testing some of his patients because they were seemingly having breakthrough infections. And there's a study out that showed that only about 40% of people with organ transplants will make a antibody to the vaccine. So we started testing those patients, and sure enough, we're seeing a lot of them don't have that spike protein antibody. So we're going to make an attempt to do an extra vaccination or maybe try a different vaccination. So I think the message is, if you're vaccinated with a normal immune system, you should feel pretty good about things. But if you don't have a normal immune system, if you're on immune suppressants, or if you are in a high-risk category to do poorly if you catch COVID, you might want to see your doctor and get checked for your antibody level. I really wish, that would be a recommendation across the board nationally. Check to see if the vaccine worked if you're at high risk. Because if it didn't work, then you might want to do the things we were doing before, like, altering your schedule, not going out in public, wearing a mask so you don't catch it, and those sorts of things.
Hey, listen, somebody posted this morning, and I want you to describe it to me. And then after we get done with this, we'll go back to that newsletter that I mentioned. But it said Pfizer, BioNTech, and Moderna COVID-19 vaccines establish recall responses to reinfection. What does that mean?
I'm not sure. Maybe they want to be informed of if you think someone is reinfected, to let them know so that potentially they could gather their data. I'm not exactly sure.
It says generated a coordinated adaptive immune response that is capable of eliciting recall responses to future infection with severe acute on SARS. Yes.
Yeah. So what they're saying is that even if the antibodies wane, you probably will recall and make that antibody. What you want is what we call an anamnestic response, which means a response where you don't forget. Anamnestic. That's what you want, is even if you test the blood and it's not there, it's really there. It might be deep in your bone marrow. There's a study that showed that. And so what they're saying is that you hopefully would have recall to have those antibodies.
So that's a good thing.
That would be a good thing. Yeah.
So one of the actually interesting points about this is actually a valid story. I went to check. There's several stories about it. And the person who shared it with me said that this is the kind of headline that concerns people. Actually, he's making a good point that when you read it, without being a medical professional or a scientist, you don't really know what it's saying. It sounds bad, but in fact, it's good. So, this is a complicated thing that we're part of right now. So what I want to do in the second half, we'll get into this newsletter, and I'll kind of run through some of these things with you. But just in general, how are you and your partner holding up through this current wave?
Well, we're doing all right. We have some pretty good help. It's really the hospitalists, the ones that take care of the patients admitted to the hospital. We consult on the patients, but it's really the hospitalists and the ICU doctors and the staff in those areas, the nurses and techs in those areas that are taking the brunt of it, because, some of these patients, they end up in the ICU and they're there for weeks and sometimes months. And so those are the ones that are really, really feeling the pressure.
So you said this before, but as we sort of get ready to go to the break, remind people what they said, what you said. You just want people to have good information and to make the right choices. But then you talk about the risk of getting COVID versus the risk of getting the vaccine. Give us your case on that.
Oh, yeah. So, I think that the side effects of the vaccine that sometimes you hear about are just much exaggerated. Yes, there are some people who feel ill when they get the vaccine. People who've had COVID before, I still think we have a lot of work to do. I don't really think they need 2 shots of these 2-shot series because they get a good boost with the first shot, and with the second shot, they feel really sick. So we have to work out some of these nuances. And then some people might be vaccine non-responders. We need to do some research and figure out who those people are. But by and large, the side effects are minimal. And when you get COVID and you get admitted to the hospital, the effects are devastating. We have some young people who are really sick, whose lungs aren't going to be the same for a long time.
Wow, that's so disappointing to hear. And that's kind of a new thing that you're saying there versus what you had experienced before. Hey, when we come back, we're going to continue this really important conversation about COVID and the vaccines and other stuff. We'll be back after this.
Coast Vue on SuperTalk 103.1 is brought to you by J. Allen Toyota on I-10 exit 38 Gulfport. See all the incredible inventory at allentoyota.com. And remember, when you think Toyota, think J. Allen Toyota.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's J. Allen at J. Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the J. Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the J. Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
From outer space, visitors from another world. We've had contact with bug-eyed monsters.
This is actually a flying saucer.
Flying saucer?
I'm from another planet.
Where late nights are kind of weird.
Well, they must have a reason for their visits.
The unexplained, the weird, and the downright creepy. Coast to Coast AM with George Norrie. Late nights. SuperTalk Mississippi. If Alexa's part of your life, you've got one more way to access SuperTalk. SuperTalk Mississippi is now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Once enabled, just say, Alexa, play SuperTalk Mississippi at any time and start listening. It's that easy. Just one more way to stay informed and connected with your state. Learn more at supertalk.fm/Alexa. SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi. Now available on Amazon Alexa devices. Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen. Okay. Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, casinoradio1063.com.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. I have Dr. Nicholis Conger with us. and we're sort of getting the latest on COVID-19, and in particular, the Delta variant. And so let's do this. I'm going to move over to this newsletter and read a couple of things to you and just get your reaction, because I think it does a good job of hitting this from various dimensions. This is written by Isaac Saul, and he has a newsletter called Tangle, which is a terrific newsletter. But here's what he says. In order to make my position cohesive, I suppose it's important to start with the basic premise. I believe the more Americans who are vaccinated for COVID-19, the better. While the mRNA technology used in many of the most effective vaccines is new in parentheses, it has also been studied and developed for decades. And while it's true there are no long-term studies by virtue of this coronavirus being novel, which would mean new, it's also true that the odds of a vaccine having deleterious or bad long-term effects when showing so few short-term issues is incredibly small. That's why so many experts on vaccines are also prominent proponents of getting inoculated. What's your comments about that, Nick?
Yeah, I totally agree. I agree with all of those statements. I think that the chances of finding out unknown at this point long-term effects of these vaccines is minuscule. Mm-hmm. We're learning more and more every day, but I think it's minuscule. Now, I can tell you I have witnessed long-term effects of the infection. I still see people who had COVID a year ago and are just not right. They can't work a full workday. That's not everybody. That's the exception, not the rule, but it's there. It's definitely there. So,
and now you're seeing, and we'll get to this in just a second, but now you're seeing young people. You didn't necessarily talk about young people in the ICU before.
Yeah, definitely. Like I say, I think that the risk factor of obesity has been unfortunately downplayed. To me, that's the major risk factor. If someone was young and in the ICU, that they were going to be obese. Now we have a couple of people who aren't all that obese. Now I think they're going to make it. I don't think they're going to die, but they're having a more severe infection, definitely. And now a lot of the older people are also vaccinated, and we do believe the vaccine works. And so that is going to skew your numbers towards the younger population. And so that's part of it as well. That's definitely part of it as well. But we didn't see these young people who weren't obese this ill before.
Okay, so continuing to break it down, this is the next thing that Isaac says. On top of that, the vaccines seem to be damn near miraculous. They're incredibly effective, not just eliminating death, but also serious illness and potential long-haul symptoms. And most encouragingly, their effectiveness seems to be working against the new variants. Even if they're not preventing infection at such a high rate, the prevention of serious illness is similar.
Yep, that's right. I witnessed it. That was my case in point when I said you could walk through the infusion clinic, which were the outpatients. You could pick out the ones that were prior vaccinated because they just looked better, looked more, just less ill. Definitely. Yeah, that's absolutely true.
Okay, so the next part actually speaks to something that's really important. When people see people who are not vaccinated, they assume that they're just, I don't know, anti-vaxxers or not smart or whatever. Okay. So Isaac quotes from an article that was written by a guy named Michael Brendan Daughtery, where he said this: a lot of people who are not taking the vaccine have rational, smart, and considerate folks with perfectly logical reasons for sitting out. And then this is what Isaac reads. He adds this. Some are just worried about something new, which is a basic human nature. Some have underlying health conditions. Some are trying to get pregnant. Some are pregnant. Some had COVID-19 already and trust that their natural immune response will work. Some are young and healthy and too busy living with youthful belief that they're immortal. To clear a day of hanging with their friends to get vaccinated is not something they will take time to do. And then he asked the question, would I have rushed to a nearby clinic at the age of 22 to get a vaccine? I'd love to say, of course, but I honestly don't know. Those are really good points, aren't they, Nick?
Yeah, they are. And I think that, absolutely. And I actually agree with the argument that if you've had COVID, particularly if you had a real good, like pretty darn sick COVID, you probably don't need vaccination. And I don't think there's experts out there saying that, but you probably don't need vaccination. You probably have just as good immunity as someone who's vaccinated. But yeah, I think the more you demonize people who are anti-vaccine at this point, the more that you're going to strengthen the resolve not to get vaccinated. I think we need to have ongoing conversations and explain. And to me, everything is a risk-benefit decision, and other people are going to come out on a different side of that risk-benefit. And so they are making their choice. The people I see, they tell me they're sick in the hospital. They tell me I chose not to get vaccinated.
Yeah.
But I just want to make the point that when you're that sick in the hospital and you're talking to me and you might go to the ICU because you need to go on the ventilator, that's when it's too late. And all these treatments you hear about, well, maybe this drug works, or maybe that drug works. Well, this 1 in 25 people will be saved with this drug. Things like that. I wouldn't count on the treatments. The main treatment is just delivering oxygen and hope your body gets over it, to be honest with you. The treatments are not near as good as these vaccines.
And at the end of the day, the vaccine is what they should consider. You were trained to do what you do. So you've always understood that there's always going to be a small percentage of people who are in the anti-vaxxer arena. That's just the reality. And this is on both sides of the political spectrum, I might add. But this is different in that, of course, it's a pandemic that's happening in our lifetime. And then on top of that, you got a lot of misinformation. So I'm just curious, what are your thoughts about anti-vaxxers? But more specifically, when you meet with someone, when you talk to them, how often are you having to overcome misinformation?
I think frequently there's a lot of misinformation out there in regards to vaccinations. We have improved our public health. We've improved our water supply, our food supply, but also vaccines have played a major role in people living longer in life. And I have often said that, we have the luxury of being anti-vaccine because we have herd immunity to all these diseases that used to kill a small percentage of children as they grew up. But so many people are vaccinated, and those diseases are rare, and vaccines has a major part to do with that. And so you kind of have the luxury to be anti-vax because we live in a country with such good sanitation, good health care, with a significant majority of people who are vaccinated. So you kind of have the luxury of being anti-vaccine. With this one, there's not so much that luxury. I think it's now there are people who are vaccinated that get infected. I want to there are always exceptions, but if you're choosing not to be vaccinated, you're definitely in the target population. So I think as more people who are kind of anti-vaccine see that, especially with this wave of Delta, if it starts affecting people and their families, I can tell you there's many patients I talk to in the hospital and they're sick as a dog and they tell their family, okay, never mind, let's not be anti-vaccine, let's get it now. And then so many family members rush out to get it, hoping that they didn't catch it from their loved one before the vaccine takes effect.
Yeah, I think, there was a study done recently that shows still a pretty decent number of people were undecided. And I also would add to this, which your study wouldn't have gotten to, those who decided not to get it may have decided not to get it based on bad information. And the reason I say that is I actually had a friend call me over the last couple of days and said he thanked me for getting the right information out there. And the bottom line was he went to get a vaccination, and he was encouraging the rest of his family to do so as well. He sent me a picture of his vaccination card. And as long as there is a number of people out there that are open to hearing from people like you, Nick Conger, I'm going to continue to focus on this, because if I can turn one or two people, maybe it saves a life or two. And I know you feel the same way, don't you?
I do. And I don't want your audience to misunderstand me. I'm not a big person on forced vaccinations, especially in things that are emergency authorized. It is new and it does scare people. And some of them may have valid reasons of why they personally don't want to fall on that risk benefit spectrum like I would. I'd much rather encourage them with good information. One of the things I talked about doing was maybe having one of our critical care doctors describe how sick these patients are. Maybe someone hearing that might help them change their mind. So, I'd like to hit them with good information and with honest back and forth of what we see. And hopefully that will change their minds, because, I certainly don't want people forced into something that they're very, very much against at times. So,
hey, since this is kind of like really important, maybe we should come back together next week. And if there's any way you could get a critical care doctor to join us for a few minutes, that would be really good. Because I do think a lot of people are beginning to see, wait a minute, this Delta situation is different. And what I tell you, what ends up convincing people is when they know somebody who's gotten sick, then their circle starts to rethink their current thinking about that. So it's an interesting time we find ourselves in. Make the point that you made as we were in the break about what you should expect to see as we go forward. Is this going to be with us from now on? What do you expect?
So what I expect is based on what I've seen so far. And please, I don't like to do predictions with COVID because we're learning more and more every day, and predictions are often wrong. But what seems to be happening is we're going to have kind of wave after wave. And hopefully these ripples in the pond get a little bit smaller. As more and more people get vaccinated, more and more people get natural infection. As these waves comes, yes, some of them will get reinfected, but that pool is going to be smaller every time. So I hope that these ripples get smaller and smaller and smaller until we end up with it rolling into the usual wintertime respiratory viruses that will occasionally make a random person sick, but not have these community waves that affect us as greatly as they are now.
At the end of the day, we agreed on one thing really important, and it is the more people who get vaccinated, the better at the end of the day. And you know that because you see it every single day. You know the difference, and you know the risk associated with it. Anyway, Nick, thank you for joining us. Hopefully we'll have you back on in the next week or so, and you can bring a critical care doctor into the conversation, and we'll continue the conversation. Thank you, buddy. I appreciate it.
Thank you. Take care.
You bet. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation.
Listen live or on demand and watch episodes of Coast Vue on your laptop, desktop, or on your phone or tablet by going to supertalkmsgulfcoast.com.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking very hard-to-find PPE items to make our community a safer place. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. They were even sending thousands of dollars of PPE supplies free to local schools in need with help from other local business leaders. The next time your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider a local company that supports your ball teams, cheerleaders, and area homeless. Consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply, the local guys that keep your prices fair, your service and selection excellent, and your health our business. Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
Hey, South Mississippi, the future has arrived. It's 2021, and at J. Allen Toyota, we're here to serve you. Want to let you know that we have Allen's lifetime warranty on every new Toyota we sell. That also comes with Toyota Care. That's 2 years and 25,000 miles of complimentary maintenance. We have a great rental department. Our service department's ready to take care of your current vehicle. We're rolling out J. Allen certified pre-owned for 2021. You got to come to I-10 exit 38 right here in Gulfport. You're going to love what we have to offer. When you think Toyota, think Allen Toyota.
Feeling down? Here's your prescription for a daily dose of good news and positive vibes. Good Things with Rebecca Turner. Every afternoon, Rebecca highlights all the good things happening right here in the state you call home. Daily exposure to Good Things with Rebecca Turner may cause smiling, feelings of positivity, happiness, and even laughter. When you experience these symptoms, tell your friends to listen.
Okay.
Weekdays starting at 2 p.m. here on SuperTalk Mississippi and now on Amazon Alexa devices.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. Talking to Paul Thorne, Mississippi true treasure, really incredible recording artist, singer, songwriter, has been doing it a long time, doing it the right way.
It's almost like a Forrest Gump thing because, I was a boxer, / I worked in a furniture factory, / I had a gig 2 nights a week playing my acoustic guitar in a pizza restaurant, / I was in the National Guard. And,
Wow.
All this stuff was going on at the same time. / I had a writing contract with Rick Hall and Fame.
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
Whether you're brand new to the DIY craze or a seasoned veteran, the Handyman Show has something for you. Buddy Slowick shares tips and tricks on everything from odd jobs to complete build-outs, from small home repairs to serious construction. So no matter if you're at the master carpenter level or not quite sure how to use a level, the Handyman Show answers your questions with a healthy dose of humor and some great music too. Saturdays, 10 to noon on SuperTalk Mississippi and on SuperTalk TV.
SuperTalk Mississippi. Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth. When you want the truth. Simply because it might hurt some feelings. And nothing but the truth. Lose some subscribers. You want the Gallo Radio Show. I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead. The Gallo Radio Show. And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself. Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi.
And now, it's Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews. Brought to you by J. Allen Toyota, Gulf Coast Business Supply, and AGJ Systems and Networks on SuperTalk 103.1 FM.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. I really enjoyed that conversation with Dr. Nicholis Conger. He's been such a great friend to Coast Vue. And we explored the reasons why the Delta variant is different. And just to make that point one more time, given the choice to get COVID or get the vaccine, man, he'd pick the vaccine every time. If you missed that conversation, you can go to the SuperTalk Gulf Coast Facebook page, the SuperTalk Mississippi Facebook page. You can go to the SuperTalk Mississippi YouTube page or any of your favorite podcasts and take a listen to that conversation. Dr. Conger has been incredibly available to us on this show. And, he's trained. He's an infectious disease internist. That's what he's trained to do. And he's seeing patients every day and an increasing number, which is really unfortunate. Now let's shift gears. I always talk about the military community here in coastal Mississippi. I try to stay in touch as much as possible with what's going on the bases. We've met some incredible people along the way. And today we get a chance to meet one more, Colonel David Carr, who's the chaplain for the 81st Training Wing at Keesler Air Force Base here in Biloxi. Chaplain, how are you?
Doing very well, thank you. Thanks.
Listen, when I read number one about your education and your assignments, it's not unusual when I get someone in your position here on this show that I'm talking to someone who's literally been around the world and has such a great perspective on things. But I want to take a little bit of your journey, actually. But before we get any further, why don't you explain what a chaplain does in your day-to-day role?
Well, that's a great privilege to be a chaplain and to be a person that, that the Air Force recognizes to be a spiritual leader on an installation. And so primarily, at least in the senior role that I'm privileged to do now, and it is to be an advisor to the commander on religious affairs matters. There is a fair amount of stuff that happens every day that falls in the religious realm, and so he needs an advisor just as he needs a legal advisor, and just as he needs a protocol advisor and a public affairs advisor. So I'm just one of his many advisors. In this case, Colonel Hunter here at Keesler and Colonel Blackwell before him.
So you went to Cedarville University and ultimately on to Tacoma to get a master's in in divinity at Northwest Baptist Seminary. But did you know early in your life that you wanted to get into this line of work?
Well, I knew that I wanted to make a difference in people's lives. I wanted to invest my life in the things that I considered to be values that were eternal. That is the souls of people and the Word of God. And so I went on to seminary and thinking that I would be in the pastoral ministry. But then through a series of events, one of them discouragement. Amazing how that is. That I was led to a chapel one day that there was a reserve Air Force chaplain there. And I thought that sounds exactly like me. It was one of God's ways to get me where I needed to be to serve him and to serve our country.
Right, all at the same time. I noted that you actually went to Maxwell's Air Force Base in Alabama twice, and I had the opportunity to attend their leadership program there at Maxwell. And man, that program that they have there. You did the Air Command and Staff College, and you also did the squadron officer training there. It's a terrific program, isn't it?
It really is, and so those are courses of study that teach officership and teach leadership. There also is our chaplain school there, so we get trained in how to do chaplains work at different levels. So not only do we get trained, the privilege to be trained to be leaders and officers, but also chaplains to specific military settings and audiences, airmen and guardians now.
Yeah, I said twice, but actually just three. You went to Air War College there as well, which is where we went for a leadership program there. Met people from all over the country that were involved in their community, and we got a real good sense of the role the Air Force plays, the kind of issues that leaders face. And it was just a terrific opportunity to really become better connected with the military community, especially the Air Force, by participating in that college. Your work has literally brought you all over the country and all over the world. So what stands out as you look back on your career as being some really sort of important moments in that travel?
Well, yes, thank you. What stands out most is that you get to touch one life at a time. You never know on any given day what the need will be for someone, and unlike most pastors, they know their congregation. Occasionally, they will have an opportunity to interact with somebody else who needs them. But in the chaplain corps, we could be anywhere on the base, and then an airman of any experience level, any rank might need us, and we can spontaneously care for one life at a time. A lot of times we'll go out and visit in the workplace and interact with folks, engage with folks, and then amazingly a day or two later someone will call and they'll want an appointment, and it's because they saw you in their workplace. They have something going on in their life. They just want to talk that out and work on a relationship or work on something that you have been able to help them with. So those are incredibly rewarding times. You get to do a fair amount of counseling. You get to bring a spiritual aspect to bear on a lot of decisions. And then secondly, to answer your question, also incredibly rewarding were the times when we deployed to war. I've gotten to deploy to war 4 times. Now, war is never a good thing, but we exist. We train. We do everything else that we do in order to prepare to be able to represent our nation in its most needed times and needful times. And so when we get to deploy to war, that's exactly why we exist, because, someone not in uniform, a pastor in a local church in the community here, he doesn't get, or she doesn't get to deploy to war. They can't do that. So that's why we exist, so that we can go with our American heroes to represent our nation when we're most needed.
Well, when you have such a calm demeanor about you, excuse me, and I can only imagine when a young man has been also deployed, or a woman has been deployed to war, yes, that their needs could be could be significant, actually, from a spiritual point of view. Maybe it's just that they need an ear to listen. Maybe they just need someone to show they care. They can be anything from homesick to worried about their own life. I mean, you've probably seen the full spectrum, haven't you?
Really, truly have. And we were privileged to deploy not long after 9/11. So there was a lot of fear, and we were instrumental and required to bring calm to a lot of situations in a lot of lives. And then, so they're emotional, the whole gamut of emotions when they're out in a deployed setting. But then also we represent not just counseling, but we represent faith, right? So a lot of people are searching for purpose and meaning and value in their life, and they're searching for faith. And we believe that, that faith has an important part to play in spiritual resilience and preparation for doing what our nation asks you to do. And so that's why we're so grateful as chaplains, chaplain corps team members. We also have religious affairs professionals, in the enlisted ranks that come alongside us and partner with us in this important work where we care for the spiritual pillar of each airman's life when we're invited to, of course.
Yeah. I remember so well. I talk about resiliency here on Coast Vue a lot because coastal Mississippi, as you've learned, because of the various disasters we've had to face, is an incredibly resilient place. In some respects, I think it positioned us to be able to respond to things like COVID and the pandemic in a way that sort of we've been there before. We understand what it's like to have to bounce back from a disaster and so on. But just sharing my own personal experience after Katrina. We were in our house in Back Bay, nearly were washed away, and I was publisher of the Sun Herald at the time. And I remember those days after the storm. I leaned on my faith a lot, and you mentioned faith resilience or spiritual resilience. I find that in difficult times, that the ability to sort of appeal to a higher power and know that the faith helps me, at least provide a process for me to think through, what is going to be my next step and how am I going to sort of get through this moment. It can be a very powerful thing. And I know, you've literally been trained at that, but do you sense that? Have you had the opportunity to talk to people from South Mississippi to see if they have a certain sense of spiritual resiliency that you haven't seen before?
It's great spiritual resilience here. And, there's no question that in the military world, we're busier when life is more complex and dangerous. There's no question about that. But we really, really believe that faith works. Faith is powerful and valuable. And relationships with God. And we represent all faiths. We represent the freedom of religion and religious expression. Yeah. So we do our best to accommodate, provide for all people who request.
We're coming to the end of the segment.
Very resilient.
This is the chaplain of the 81st Training Wing at Keesler Air Force Base, Colonel David Carr. When we come back, we'll continue the conversation. We'll see you after this break.
SuperTalk.fm has a new look and is more informative than ever with expanded Mississippi news coverage, the latest Mississippi weather, Mississippi sports, and of course, the talk that's important to you. Every show, every podcast, and every late-breaking story. Constantly updating the news the second new developments happen. All in one place. The new SuperTalk.fm.
Hey, South Mississippi, it's Jay Allen at Jay Allen Toyota, and I got something new for you for 2021. It's the Jay Allen Certified Collection. What that means is we selected our very best inventory with under 75,000 miles, and they're 6 years old or newer. That comes with a multi-point inspection, a 10-year, 100,000-mile warranty, and a 3-day buyback guarantee. So come check out the Jay Allen Certified Pre-Owned Collection right here, I-10 exit 38 in Gulfport, or on allentoyota.com.
When COVID started, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply began stocking hard-to-find PPE items. When Amazon and other mega internet companies were out of stock or inflating prices, Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply was providing local schools and businesses vital PPE supplies at fair prices. When your office needs PPE supplies, office furniture, or products to keep your business operating, consider Gulf Coast Business Furniture and Supply. We sell that too. Buy local.
SuperTalk Mississippi.
Just seems to me people have so much invested in not telling the truth.
When you want the truth.
Simply because it might hurt some feelings.
And nothing but the truth.
Lose some subscribers.
You want the Gallo Radio Show.
I just think in this audience, you still believe that if you tell the truth, you come out ahead.
The Gallo Radio Show.
And if you tell yourself otherwise, you're lying to yourself.
Mornings on SuperTalk Mississippi. SuperTalk Mississippi, your new home for the Ben Shapiro Show.
We don't hold back. We never shy away from telling you the truth.
The most electrifying national talk show on air today.
We have the most important guests and the biggest thinkers in America.
Ben Shapiro, brutally breaking down the issues of the day.
From politics to pop culture, we take a look at all of it. So don't miss out.
Weeknights at 9.
For something new and unique in talk radio, take a listen to The Ben Shapiro Show.
On SuperTalk Mississippi.
Hey, I'm Steve Azar, and you never know who or what you'll hear when I spend a Mississippi Minute with my friends. We're talking to Del Berra. Take me back to growing up and what it was like in the household with a dad like Yogi Berra.
You know, we grew up with his funny sayings. You know, I remember Dad managing the Mets, and me, Larry, and Timmy are watching the game on TV. And all of a sudden, two streakers run out of the stands on TV, and the camera flips away from them. So when he gets home, me, Larry, and Timmy say, "Hey, Dad, those streakers, what were they, boys or girls? We need to know." And Dad looked us right in the eye and said, "I couldn't tell. They had bags over their heads."
In a Mississippi Minute. Be sure to check out In a Mississippi Minute with me, Steve Azar, right here on SuperTalk Mississippi, the SuperTalk Mississippi app, and now available on iTunes, Google Play, and Stitcher.
106.3 Casino Radio is here. Tune to 106.3 to discover all of our must-see attractions and everything that's happening at our 12 incredible casino resorts. Where to eat, where to stay, what to do, and where to play. 106.3 Casino Radio has you covered with everything you need to know to help make your visit here to the coast one you'll never forget. Turn on 106.3 Casino Radio or listen now on our website, CasinoRadio1063.com.
Talking to the people that help make the coast such a unique place to live. This is Coast Vue with Ricky Matthews on SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1.
Welcome back to Coast Vue. We're visiting with Colonel David Carr. He's the chaplain for the 81st Training Wing at Keesler Air Force Base. And he and I were chatting during the break, and I just want to share with you what we were saying. But let me say this first. I love doing Coast Vue. I'm really honored to do Coast Vue because I never know where I'm going to get touched. I don't know where the inspiration is going to be. So I'm very open to wherever the conversation takes us. But the conversation we were having during the break was that there is something powerful about spiritual resilience, that it does help you through difficult times, whether it be the pandemic or Katrina or any number of other things. There's one specific situation that I'll mention in just a few minutes, but there's a lot of truth to that, isn't there, Chaplain?
Yes, there really is, and it's been studied, it's been researched, and that faith is valuable, incredibly valuable, helping folks from a resilience point of view. And spiritual resilience is significant. It's so significant that even, our Department of Defense highly values it. And our Air Force has what we call a comprehensive airman fitness. We believe in building a foundation of physical resilience, mental resilience, social resilience, and also, get this, spiritual resilience. It's in the actual doctrine of our Air Force. So we believe this is really, really important. That means that people need to have a foundation of purpose and meaning and significance, and we believe that significance comes from the Almighty or their however they would worship their God or their Almighty. So we are privileged to represent that on this base to several thousand people, and then across the Department of Defense in all the installations that are supported by our taxpayers, your viewers. So we're grateful. We can really say we're grateful for that.
You say that so well. Hey, the pandemic, has it changed the kind of conversations that you have with people?
Yes. It has brought fear. It has brought uncertainty, and it has brought stress. And whenever people are stressed, that affects their lives. And so we have talked to many, many people, and it's all about trying to keep a good focus and people healthy and strong and able to do our nation's business right here in this place. Yes.
Hey, listen, I said I was going to mention another situation. I want you to say what you would say to people in cases like this. But out of a young man who I care deeply about, who died over the last couple of days, and has a wonderful family and lots of friends, just a radiant young man that unfortunately had an untimely death. In cases like that, what do you say to the family?
Well, this is where chaplains have a unique role in military service and as a clergy person in just service and care to people in general. And so the empathy of sorrow and hurt, and just coming alongside people in a caring, loving way. That's what people need when they've had an incredible loss in their life. And it's what just being with people and not being hurried, not being rushed, just providing peace and comfort. And we believe that peace and comfort comes from the Almighty, from our God. So we represent God, and we don't say a whole lot. That's what I'm trying to say. I'm saying too much to say that we don't say a whole lot. Let me say quickly that, it's also a great privilege as a chaplain. Whenever there is a death on active duty, we are asked to go with the notifying agent to do just that for hurting colleagues' families. So that's an incredible privilege. One of the harder things we are asked to do, but certainly our role, and I wanted to highlight that too.
It's I know from my own experience that this too shall pass. Time heals, and faith helps you in that time.
It does.
So as we're sort of kind of beginning to wind down, if I had to ask you, what is the thing that you look at in all the things that you do that gives you the most motivation about what you do? What is it that you just absolutely fires you up about your passion for what you do?
Well, change lives, growth. When you see young people like we have here at Keesler, growing, committed not just to learning, but to accomplishing incredible things for our nation, to embracing our core values of integrity and excellence and service. That makes a great difference, because we know they're going forward to serve our nation in a difficult time, and then representing God to them too. And that's an incredibly wonderful thing. And I just can't believe that that I've been privileged to do that for now 35 plus years. Really great.
It's incredible, and I can see that you would be really good at what you do. You have such a calm, empathetic demeanor about you, and that's what I envision in someone like you, who's sort of representing a spiritual view on things. But anyway, we're coming to the end of our time together. But Chaplain Colonel David Carr, it has been an absolute pleasure to meet you and introduce you to coastal Mississippi. Thanks for the work that you've done and for the service that you provided all around the world. It's incredible what you've done over your career, and you still got more time ahead of you. So
thank you for the privilege to represent my God, my nation, and my Lord. Okay. Appreciate it.
You bet, man. It's just great. Thank you very much. Have a great day, and we'll see you tomorrow.
Follow SuperTalk Mississippi Gulf Coast 103.1 on Facebook. Facebook.com/SuperTalk MS Coast 103.1.